You won't believe what we discovered about this family's past. An abandoned and sick mother hides a devastating secret that could destroy everything you believe about love and sacrifice. Get ready for a shocking twist that defies all expectations. And at the end, let's say a powerful prayer together. Follow this surprising story. Broken ties. Isabel was sitting in the armchair in the living room, the same one her late husband used to occupy. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the ticking of the old wall clock. The framed photographs on the walls and furniture told the story of a family that was once united and now broken. Isabel held a trembling paper in her hands, the diagnosis of her terminal illness. She looked at the photos of her children, Lucas and Helen, remembering the last arguments that drove them apart. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the room. Isabel felt deep pain, not just physical, but emotional. His blue eyes, marked by time and worry, fixed on a photo of Lucas and Helen as children, hugging and smiling. The weight of loneliness and regret crushed his heart. As dusk turned to night, Isabel slowly rose from her seat. Every movement was an effort, a reminder of her growing fragility. He walked to the dining table, where a notebook and pen were waiting. He sat down, took a deep breath and started writing. Determined to try for one last reconciliation, Isabel took her notebook and began writing letters to her children. Every word was filled with pain, regret, and love. "Dear Lucas," she wrote, "I know we grew apart due to disagreements, but I'm sick and I need you. We need to make things right before it's too late." The same message, with personal nuances, was written to Helen. Isabel hoped that these letters could bring her children back. Tears wet the paper as Isabel wrote. She remembered the fights, the screams, and the slammed doors. But he also remembered the hugs, the laughter, and the tender moments. Every good and bad memory was engraved in his heart. She knew she needed to face her past to have any hope for a future, however short. When Isabel finished the letters, she carefully placed them in envelopes and sealed them. The next day, with what little strength he had left, he walked to the mailbox on the corner and sent the letters. As I walked home, I felt a mixture of anxiety and hope. Would Lucas and Helen answer his call? Days later, Lucas found the letter in his correspondence. He was in his modern apartment, surrounded by work, trying to forget the past. Upon reading his mother's words, his face hardened, but something inside him began to change. Helen, on the other hand, found the letter among her books. Reading it brought tears to her eyes. Memories of a loving mother and happy moments invaded her. Both, initially reluctant, began to consider the possibility of returning home. Lucas was sitting in his living room, Isabel's letter still open in his hands. He reread each line, the words echoing in his mind. "Mom is sick," he thought, feeling a pang of guilt. Memories of arguments with his father and subsequent estrangement haunted him. But now, the desperate tone of Isabel's letter made him question his choices. He knew he needed to make a decision. Helen, in turn, was in her office, surrounded by books and notes. When she read Isabel's letter, she felt overcome by a wave of emotions. She always had a special bond with her mother, but the separation and need for independence made her distance herself. Now, Isabel's words made her rethink her priorities. "I need to go home," she whispered to herself, determined to make peace with her mother. The cold morning wind blew through the suburbs as Isabel stared out the window, waiting. Every day that passed without a response from her children was torture. But she knew she needed to be patient. A mother's love, even in the face of death, is a powerful force. A week later, the doorbell rang. Isabel, weak but full of hope, opened the door. There was Lucas, with a look mixed with sadness and determination. "Mom," he said, hugging her gently. Isabel felt the warmth of the hug and tears silently rolled down her face. "Thank you for coming, my son," she whispered. 2 days later, Helen arrived. When he saw Lucas and Isabel together, he felt an indescribable relief. "Mommy, I'm here," Helen said, joining in the hug. The three generations gathered in the small living room, trying to heal the wounds of the past. In the following days, Isabel's house came to life again. Lucas and Helen took turns caring for their mother, trying to make up for lost time. But the reconciliation process was not easy. Old hurts and disagreements resurfaced, challenging them to confront their feelings. One night, while Isabel was resting, Lucas and Helen had a heart-to-heart. "I never understood why you were so distant," Lucas said, looking into his sister's eyes. "I needed to find my own way," Helen replied, her voice trembling. "But now I see that I have strayed too far." This conversation was an important step towards healing. Both realized that, despite their differences, they shared the same desire to be there for Isabel in her final days. Isabel, watching her children, felt a mixture of joy and sadness. Their presence was a balm for her pain, but she knew her time was running out. One afternoon, while they were together in the living room, Isabel decided to reveal a secret she had been keeping for years. "There's something you need to know," she began, her voice soft but firm. "It's about our father's past, and it could change everything." Lucas and Helen exchanged looks, surprised and curious. "What do you mean, Mom?" Lucas asked. Isabel took a deep breath, preparing to tell the truth she had been keeping for so long. She knew that this revelation could bring her children even closer together, or perhaps separate them again. But she needed to be honest, so they could move forward no matter what. Seeds of reconciliation. Lucas was nervous as he approached his mother's house. The weight of the last few weeks was visible on his face. Upon entering the house, he felt a wave of emotions when he saw Isabel sitting in the armchair, visibly more fragile than he remembered. "Mom, I'm here," he said, his voice breaking. Isabel smiled, with tears in her eyes, and opened her arms for a hug. "My son, I was waiting for you," she said. Lucas knelt down next to the armchair, hugging her tenderly. Words were not necessary. The hug conveyed everything they felt at that moment. The days that followed were dedicated to rebuilding the relationship. Lucas took turns taking care of his mother and dealing with remote work. Despite the initial tension, conversations began to flow. "I always thought I had time to figure things out," Lucas said one night while they were having dinner together. "But now I realize that time is precious."
Isabel Nadi.
"It always is, Lucas. And what matters is that you are here now." A few days later, Helen arrived at Isabel's house. She parked the car, took a deep breath and walked to the door. Lucas received her with a silent hug. The presence of the two brothers in the same house brought a mixture of tension and relief to Isabel. "Mommy, I'm back," said Helen, holding Isabel's hand. Helen's presence brought a new dynamic to the house. The conversations, initially formal and full of resentment, began to become more natural. "Helen, remember when we used to play in the backyard?" Lucas asked, trying to break the ice. Helen smiled. "Yes, and you always stole my favorite toy." Isabel watched the interactions with hope. Although there were still unhealed wounds, the presence of their children together was a sign that reconciliation was possible. The days passed, and Lucas and Helen took turns caring for Isabel. Living together brought up old memories and repressed emotions. One night, while Isabel was resting, Lucas and Helen sat in the kitchen, reminiscing about the past. "I never understood why you stayed away so much," Lucas said, looking into his sister's eyes. Helen sighed, stirring her cup of tea. "I needed to find my own way. I felt like here I was trapped by everyone's expectations." Lucas nodded, understanding. "I wanted to run away too, but now I see that it only hurt us more." Honesty in conversation was an important step toward healing. They both realized that, despite their differences, they shared the same desire to be there for Isabel in her last days. The pain of the past began to give way to mutual understanding and a genuine desire to rebuild the relationship. Isabel, watching her children, felt a mixture of joy and sadness. Their presence was a balm for her pain, But she knew her time was running out. One afternoon, while they were together in the living room, Isabel decided to reveal a secret she had been keeping for years. "There is something you need to know," she began, her voice soft but firm. Lucas and Helen exchanged looks, surprised and curious. "What do you mean, Mom?" Lucas asked. Isabel took a deep breath, preparing to tell the truth she had been keeping for so long. She knew that this revelation could bring her children even closer together, or perhaps separate them again. But she needed to be honest, so they could move forward no matter what. Hidden truths. The sun was starting to set when Lucas and Helen decided to explore the attic of the house. It was a place they rarely visited as children, full of dust and stacked boxes. Isabel had mentioned that there they could find some answers about the family's past. As they climbed the stairs, the tension between the brothers was palpable. The dim light from the lamp flickered, casting mysterious shadows on the walls. Lucas opened the attic door, and they both entered, breathing in the dusty, damp air. "Look at this," said Helen, pointing to an old wooden chest in the corner. They opened the chest, revealing a collection of old photo albums, letters, and documents. Among the items, they found a carved wooden box, carefully stored under a woolen blanket. Lucas opened the box, revealing a series of letters tied with a faded red ribbon. "These letters are from our father," he said, reading the sender. "He wrote to a man called John Baxter." Helen picked up one of the letters and began to read. The words revealed a shocking secret. Lucas and Helen were not the biological children of Isabel and her husband. Their real father was John Baxter, a dangerous man who had threatened the family's safety. Their adoptive father had made a deal to protect them, keeping the truth hidden all these years. "We need to show this to Mom," Helen said, feeling the weight of the revelation. Lucas agreed, carefully placing the letters back in the box. Back in the living room, Lucas and Helen sat next to Isabel, the box of letters between them. Isabel looked at the box and sighed, knowing that the moment of truth had arrived. "We found something in the attic," Lucas said, placing the box in Isabel's hands. "We need to understand what this all means." Isabel opened the box, taking out one of the letters. "These letters are from your adoptive father to John Baxter. He did everything he could to keep you safe, away from a dangerous man," Isabel explained, her voice cracking with emotion. Helen felt the tears welling up. "Why didn't you ever tell us this, Mom?" "I wanted to tell you," Isabel replied, holding her children's hands. "But your father thought it was safer to keep it a secret. He was afraid that knowing the truth might expose you to unnecessary danger." Lucas, still processing the revelation, asked, "Who exactly is John Baxter? And why was he so dangerous?" Isabel took a deep breath. John Baxter was a man involved in criminal activities. He threatened our family multiple times. Your adoptive father made a deal to make sure you never learned the truth so you could have a normal, safe life. The revelation came as a shock to Lucas and Helen. Emotions were running high, and both needed time to process the information. "This changes everything," Lucas said, trying to control the anger and sadness he felt.
No, son, Isabel replied firmly.
"It doesn't change the love your adoptive father and I have for you. You are our children, and nothing can change that." Over the next few days, Lucas and Helen decided to investigate more about John Baxter. They needed to fully understand the past in order to move forward. "Let's find out everything we can about him," Lucas said determinedly. With the help of public records and some connections, they were able to piece together a profile of John Baxter. They discovered that he had been arrested several times for serious crimes and that he had a feared reputation. "He really was a dangerous man," said Helen, reading one of the articles about him. "The investigation has brought new understanding to the sacrifices their adoptive parents made to protect them. They really went above and beyond to ensure our safety," Lucas said, feeling a newfound respect for his parents. Back at Isabel's house, the brothers shared their discoveries. "Mom, we found out more about John Baxter." We now know how dangerous he was, and we understand why you kept it a secret, Helen said.
Isabel smiled, relieved.
I'm glad you understand. Everything we did was out of love for you. Lucas and Helen hugged Isabel, feeling a renewed family connection. We're a family, and nothing can change that, Lucas said. Revealing the secret and understanding the past brought a new perspective to Lucas and Helen. They began to value the love and sacrifices of their adoptive parents even more, understanding that despite the secrets, what mattered was the love and protection they received. The brothers decided that, in honor of their adoptive father and Isabel's sacrifice, they would do everything to keep the family together. Let's honor their memory and continue to care for each other, Helen said. Isabel, moved, looked at her children. I'm so proud of you. And I know that no matter what the future holds, we will always be together. The challenge of acceptance. The atmosphere in Isabel's house was lighter, but the impact of the revelations still hung in the air. Lucas and Helen were determined to accept the truth about their origins and move on, but they knew it would take time and effort to fully process the information. Isabel, sitting in her favorite armchair, watched her children. You have been so strong, she said, her voice full of pride and emotion. I know this wasn't all easy. Lucas sat next to Isabel and held her hand. Mom, you and Dad gave us a wonderful life. We're here for you and everything you've done for us. Helen, who was organizing some old photos, came over and joined in the hug. We are a family, no matter what. And now, more than ever, we need to stick together. The three spent the afternoon together, remembering stories from the past and strengthening their bonds. Isabel knew her days were numbered, but she felt peace when she saw her children reach out and support each other. In the days that followed, Lucas and Helen took turns caring for Isabel, making sure she was comfortable and surrounded by love. Conversations between the brothers became deeper, touching not only on the past, but also on their fears and hopes for the future. One night, while Isabel was resting, Lucas and Helen sat in the kitchen for another heart-to-heart talk. I still feel very angry that we didn't know the truth sooner, Lucas confessed, looking at the bottom of his coffee cup. Helen nodded. Me too. But we need to find a way to forgive. Not just our parents, but ourselves. We can't change the past, but we can choose how to move forward. Lucas sighed, absorbing his sister's words. You're right. We need to forgive and let go of the past. We need to focus on being here for Mom. The forgiveness process was not easy. Both brothers went through emotional ups and downs, but slowly began to find inner peace. They understood that their parents' love and sacrifice were greater than any kept secret. Isabel's health deteriorated rapidly. Lucas and Helen knew the end was near, and every moment with their mother became even more precious. They spent hours at Isabel's side, talking, laughing, and sometimes just holding her hand in silence. One afternoon, as the sun shone softly through the curtains, Isabel called her children close. I want you to know how much I love you, she said, her voice weak but full of emotion. You were my life, my reason for being. I'm so proud of you. Helen, with tears in her eyes, held Isabel's hand. We love you, Mommy. We will always love you. Lucas, fighting back tears, added, We will continue together, looking out for each other. We promise. Isabel smiled, an expression of peace and contentment on her face. That's all I ever wanted. For you to be together and love each other. That night, Isabel passed away peacefully, surrounded by the love of her children. Lucas and Helen felt a mixture of pain and relief, knowing that their mother was finally at peace. They hugged each other, finding strength in each other to face the pain of loss. Over the next few days, as they organized the funeral and dealt with the practical details, Lucas and Helen realized how much they had grown and bonded through the hardships. Mom taught us so many things, Helen said, as they looked through old photos. And the most important lesson was about the power of love and unity. Lucas nodded. Let's honor her memory and continue to care for each other. That's what she would have wanted. The experience of losing Isabel was devastating, but it also brought a renewed determination in Lucas and Helen to live their lives according to the values they had learned. They decided to transform Isabel's house into a place of memories and reflection, where they could always remember their parents' love and sacrifices. Lucas and Helen continued their lives, but they never forgot the lessons Isabel taught them. They honored his memory by keeping the family together and living with love and compassion, facing each challenge with the strength and courage they inherited from their parents. A new dawn. Isabel's funeral was a moment of painful farewell, but also a departure for Lucas and Helen. They committed to honoring their mother's memory by keeping the family together and helping the community. Isabel's house, full of memories, became a symbol of love and sacrifice. One morning, while organizing his mother's belongings, Lucas found a notebook with Isabel's wishes. "She wanted us to use the house to help others," he said, showing the page to Helen. Helen smiled, excited. "We can turn the house into a community center. We can offer support to struggling families like ours." Excited by the idea, they began planning the project. They painted the walls, rearranged the furniture, and created welcoming spaces for meetings and activities. The garden, which Isabel loved so much, was revitalized, becoming a space of peace and reflection. The brothers also sought help from friends and neighbors to set up the community center. "Our mother always cared about others," Helen said during a community meeting. "We want to continue that legacy." The community response was positive. Within weeks, the community center was up and running, offering workshops, counseling sessions, and events to bring people together. "We're doing something wonderful here," said Lucas, looking at the lively movement around him. With the community center fully operational, Lucas and Helen have dedicated themselves to helping others. Each new activity reinforced Isabel's legacy, bringing a feeling of purpose and fulfillment. "Mom would be so proud," said Helen, as she watched a group of children playing in the garden. Lucas nodded. "She taught us the importance of love and unity. And that's what we're doing here." One day, while organizing a fundraising event, they met an old family friend, Donna Cecilia. "Isabel always had a generous heart," she said, moved. "She helped me through difficult times. Seeing what you are doing here is a testament to how special she was." Lucas and Helen felt renewed determination upon hearing Donna Cecilia's words. "We want to continue making a difference," Lucas said. "Not just in memory of Mom, but because we believe it's right." The success of the community center attracted local media attention, and soon the story of Isabel and her children was told in newspapers and on television programs. "We're just getting started," Helen said during an interview. "Our goal is to expand and help even more people." The positive feedback brought more support and resources, allowing Lucas and Helen to expand the services they offered. "We're really making a difference," Lucas said, as he signed a donation agreement. As the months passed, the community center became a pillar of support and hope for the community. Lucas and Helen continued to work together, strengthening not only family ties but also connections with those around them. One day, as they walked through the center's garden, Lucas said, "I never thought we could transform so much in such a short time. It's all thanks to what we learned from Mom." Helen agreed, smiling. "She taught us about resilience and love. And that's what we're passing on." The brothers also began planning future projects, such as scholarship programs and partnerships with other organizations. "We want this place to continue growing and helping people for many years to come," Lucas said, excited about the possibilities. During a dedication ceremony for a new wing of the center, Helen gave an emotional speech. "This place is a tribute to the love and dedication of our mother, Isabel. Her memory will live on through every life we touch here. We will continue to honor her by helping our community grow and prosper." The audience gave a standing ovation, moved by the brothers' story of overcoming and dedication. After the event, Lucas and Helen sat in the garden, watching the stars in the sky. "She would be so proud of us," Helen said, holding her brother's hand. "Yes, I would be," Lucas replied, feeling a deep inner peace. And we have to remember that this is all just the beginning. Mom's legacy will live on through us and everyone we help. With this new perspective, Lucas and Helen knew that no matter what challenges they faced, they had the strength and love to keep going. The community center was more than a place of support. It was a symbol of resilience, unity, and hope for the future. In the following months, the center continued to grow, helping thousands of people find support and community. Lucas and Helen, inspired by Isabel's memory, became respected and loved leaders in the community. "We're making a difference," Lucas said, as he looked out over the crowded downtown during a community event. "And it's all because of the love Mom gave us." Helen nodded, feeling deep gratitude. "Yes, and it is our duty to continue this work. Together, we can do even more." The brothers, united by Isabel's love and legacy, continued to work tirelessly to create a better future for everyone. The community center, now a respected institution, was a beacon of hope and a lasting tribute to a mother's unconditional love. The story of Isabel, Lucas, and Helen teaches us about the power of love, forgiveness, and resilience. Faced with devastating secrets and a terminal illness, the family found the strength to come together and face adversity. Isabel, even in her last days, showed that a mother's love is unconditional and capable of overcoming any barrier. Lucas and Helen learned to value their parents' sacrifices and the importance of forgiving, not just others, but themselves as well. Turning pain into purpose and creating something positive from a difficult experience is a lesson we can all take into our lives. This story reminds us that no matter the circumstances, there is always room for forgiveness, reconciliation, and growth. The challenges we face can strengthen us and teach us to value the precious moments we share with our loved ones. Now, we want to hear from you. What was the most important lesson you learned from this story? Leave your answer in the comments. If this story touched you in any way, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends and family. And so you don't miss any of our exciting and surprising stories, subscribe to our channel. Together, we can continue to inspire and strengthen each other.